Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now before I start this video, I feel like I should put a disclaimer in here. So here it is. If you're easily offended or don't listen to other opinions that differ from your own, you should probably go ahead and click off. But don't forget to subscribe before you do. I promise next week we'll have something way lighter and much more enjoyable. Now in case the title hasn't given it away yet, this episode is going to be about the new movie Cuties on Netflix. Now, I originally came across this movie through Twitter. I was scrolling my feed and saw this hashtag cancel Netflix. So naturally, I looked into why it was trending and was greeted by all of this outrage around this French film that had senators and government officials calling for hearings on child pornography. It was so strange, I just had to know more about it. After spending way too much time down that rabbit hole, I just had to know how bad this film actually was. But first I looked up the director's intent on why this film was made, and I'll get back to that later in the video. I really wanted to just talk about this movie in itself outside of all of the public discussion, but that was extremely difficult, so this is just gonna be part review, part commentary. Honestly, I didn't think Cuties was that bad of a film. It's not outstanding, but if you can manage to set aside your rage for just 90 minutes, you may just realize that this film actually isn't as horrible as the internet makes it seem. The story follows an 11-year-old girl named Ami as she tries to figure out her place after moving to a new home in Paris. She struggles to live in two different cultures, her religious and conservative upbringing, and her new Western environment. And when she finally rebels, she does so by joining a girls' dance group. And this is where the film really gets into trouble due to its choice of dance style and camera placement and focus. But overlooking that for a moment, this film does tell a really important and relatable story about growing up in the social media age and over-sexualization. It's a familiar story that's been told and seen before. It's got something to say about friendship, family pressures, bullying, and yes, social media and newfound sexuality. But most importantly, this is the story about a young girl struggling to navigate the strange waters of adolescence and all of the influences that come with it. Fathia Youssouf, the main actress, provides a disarmingly tender center to the story. I found her performance really good throughout the movie, and it was honestly my favorite part about it. Whether it was having fun with her friends, nervously taking a risk, or just being a preteen who doesn't want to follow in her mother's footsteps, it was all very authentic and made the character and story feel very realistic. And while this film did pick up a number of awards on the festival circuit, it's nowhere near perfect. Some character decisions don't always line up, and it feels like the story kind of jumps around to make the movie work. This film did have something to say about the transition from childhood to sexually aware adolescence, but the way it went about doing that was about as reckless as some of the characters' actions in this film. The back half of the movie did devolve a bit into territory that was a bit unnecessary and uncomfortable. There were a lot of things that were shoehorned in and didn't necessarily fit in with the story being told, leading to a lot of the criticism and disdain for this movie. There were a number of scenes that I think could have been taken out without impacting the overall story, and even more of which I think would have made more sense with more context and lead up. Now earlier I said I looked up the director's thoughts on this film, because I knew the reception, but I wanted to also know the intent for the full story of what happened. Now, the director of this film, Maïmouna, sorry if I butchered that, said that the idea for this film was sparked after she saw a provocative dance by a group of young girls at a community event. And she went on to say that she even based the main character and some elements of the story off of her own childhood growing up in a similar situation. After reading her interviews and actually watching this movie, I'm convinced that 90% of the people yelling about it online haven't actually seen it. Some of the clips floating around the internet, while not a good look for this film, are 10 times worse by being seen out of context like they were. And in a 90-minute film, most of the inappropriate moments take up less than 10 to 15 minutes total of screen time. They were meant to be shocking, but really, they're not as bad as the online hate and backlash might lead you to believe. Yes, this film did have a few scenes that may have gone too far for comfort, but I never felt like it stepped over the line. It just towed the edge. But let's be honest, there's definitely been a lot more and a lot worse than this that's been shown and that the public has let slide. It just decided to get all up in arms about this particular film. Maïmouna Doucouré really set out to write a thought-provoking film on a subject matter that she herself was familiar with. And honestly, she did just that. Unfortunately, the conversation that it sparked may not have been exactly what she was trying to do. Which is honestly a shame because this movie has so much more to it than just what you see about it online. There are some films that are meant for mass consumption and others that are meant for a more select and discerning audience. This, I think, was the latter. Festivals and the general box office are two very different arenas. And while this movie may have been a festival darling, I don't think it was ever going to do well with a mass audience. But for now, both her and Netflix are standing behind this film. But what about you? Have you actually seen Cuties? And if so, what are your thoughts on the film? I'm always interested to know them in the comments below. But until next time, have a great day, and don't forget to watch a great movie. Bye.